Welcome everyone to this first panel discussion on smarter systems. I guess that's a broad topic. When I was suggested to moderate this panel, I had this temptation that we have these days when faced with a cognitive challenge or creative talent challenge, which is let's drop the challenge to an AI and see what happens. Obviously, I did, and I have here some interesting topics to cover with my friends here on stage. But I guess when it comes to financial services, it's not that easy, and we have much more concerns, much more limitations and factors that we need to consider, and that's what I wanted to explore today. So with me in the panel, I have Raghava Krishna. Thank you for being here. Technology Director at DIA. Carlos Muñoz, that happens to be originally from my city in Spain. Welcome. Co-founder of Alinia AI. And Tasneem, Head of Transformation at Aviva. Thank you for coming. So, well, first of all, I'd like to start with the general approach and what it means to have a smarter system. What's the uplift in which parameters that you're pursuing, and what's the approach you're following when implementing AI. Tasneem, do you want to start?
Sure. So I guess when you're looking at AI, from an insurance perspective, AI is not new. We've had it in underwriting, we've utilized it in pricing. It's been around insurance for quite a while. What's really new and what's kind of come a long way over the last year or so, and it's really sexy at the moment, I guess, is the generative AI piece. And I think that's kind of spurred everybody to accelerate what they're doing within the insurance space. I think from our perspective, though, what's really important for us is just how we go about doing it. So ensuring that when we're implementing these sorts of systems, we are looking at, can we explain exactly what's happening? Is there a way for us to mitigate any potential bias that's coming through in what we're actually doing, and ensuring that we have that trust factor maintained? Because at the end of the day, from a financial services perspective, trust is the biggest factor that we actually look at. And we're also interacting, of course, with a lot of financial regulators in terms of how we do that. So when we look across the piece in terms of where we're looking at, obviously AI, everybody recognizes at this point in time that there are gains to be had across the piece in terms of the entire value chain itself. That's well recognized. In terms of what we do and how we go about doing it, that's still something that we need to think about. So internally within our company, what we're doing is top down. There's huge investment for AI and how we go about implementing it. There's a recognition from leadership that this is something that we really do need. But there's elements of it where we need to internalize and adapt to it from a cultural mindset point of view, understanding exactly how it is that we're going to utilize it, and then be very careful in terms of creating those use cases that we can productionalize and take out into the market itself.
Very good. I was listening in the other stage. They were talking about trust. I think that's the number one concern when it comes to AI. And they were talking about trust as being, an outcome of data accuracy and having the right scope, having the right measures to spot inaccuracies or hallucinations. Let us know, Raghava, how you go about implementing AI. Is there anything on data as well? I assume there is.
Yeah, sure. And I agree with Tasneem. See, AI is there for some time, especially in the financial services industry. However, it is more in the machine learning and other places. Now, the recent innovation is all in the Gen AI and the ability to use those Gen AI and agentic AI and things like that. And for us, the importance is in the balance of innovation and trust. Again, the point that Tasneem made about trust, it's all about how do we do this responsibly within the organization, how do we get it scaled up. Previously, the Gen AI has opened up a lot more than what it was, what machine learning was used to do it. There is a lot more focused use cases from a machine learning perspective, whereas Gen AI is now it can be expanded across the organization, across the areas, across the functions, wherever you went. And what is important for us is how do we do this responsibly? And how do we make sure we have enough guardrails or controls within the whole usage of the AI and the AI strategy. So as a comprehensive view within the organization is how do we build an AI strategy which is democratizing the entire usage of AI and the innovation that is happening within the functions, at the same time has enough guardrails and controls to make sure that the teams are using only the approved models. The models are within our boundaries or within our cloud infrastructure, and the FinOps or other things are all in place in a way that to control whether it's bias, whether it is a data leaks or anything like that. And especially on your point about the data accuracy, again, that's where the Gen AI, in my personal opinion, that's where the Gen AI has been so successful. Typical machine learning is where you worry about the data accuracy, the biases in the system, and how do we fine-tune those things. Whereas now with the Gen AI element is, there is an ability that you could, not necessarily like you could generalize things, and you can use Gen AI at a generalized level rather than at a more focused individual level. So I think that's the key thing.
You mentioned guardrails, boundaries. Make sure that the models are within the boundaries, which is, a challenging thing to do. No, Carlos, I'll go with you. I guess you have a lot to say around this. There are, probably tens of millions of models now being used out there, and everyone is thinking, okay, now the models are, promising to deliver value. How do we ensure that they operate within our boundaries? How do we do this, and what's in hand today to pursue this objective?
Yeah, sure. So at Alinia, we focus on safe and controlled deployment of AI assistants in heavily regulated scenarios. So basically, we develop or we fine-tune our own LLMs to act as evaluators, guardrailers, even monitoring, right? So I think trust, of course, is everything. For us, there are two main things when using AI, or in this case LLMs, is we look for massive scalability, but always with experts in the loop, right? So traditionally, the work that was done by physical expert agents or assistants nowadays is done by a virtual financial assistant or a virtual policy underwriter, right? So same regulations apply to those new agents, but now your compliance team, instead of checking a team of 50 guys, is checking a team of probably, I don't know, 100K users per day, which is just crazy. So you have to scale compliance as much, and this is why it's so important. But at the same time, for us, it's really challenging, because if you think about it, LLMs by nature are non-deterministic, right? So you will never be able to literally predict what the LLM is going to tell you, and especially at scale. So hitting the optimal intersection between helpfulness and harmlessness of the assistant is crazy difficult, right? Because when you fine-tune the assistant or the LLM from a safety perspective, you probably will lose helpfulness, right? Augmenting harmlessness. It happened, for instance, let's get a bit practical. We work with the Barcelona Supercomputing Center. It's one of our customers. They pre-trained their own LLMs. And the first project we did for them was basically to safety fine-tune one of their LLMs for a RAG-based scenario in a legislative use case, right? So legal document extraction. And by optimizing harmlessness, we also downgraded a bit helpfulness. So again, I think it's challenging for everyone, even for us, that we focus heavily on guardrails and evaluation.
Very good. So I think we touch a little bit on the methods and how to control. But I also want to not lose one part of the equation, which is the objective, no? And the value that we want to unlock. We are talking about smarter systems, but I want to explore with you what it means to have a smarter system. Is it more efficiency? Is it that you're able to personalize more to more clients? Is it less costs internally because you can we won't name what happens, but you can save costs internally. What is it that you are prioritizing, and where you see AI as a good player?
It's a really interesting question, because I think it's all of the above, honestly. I mean, automation, process efficiency, in terms of cost reduction, I think the cost reduction is the easiest one from a business to understand. You have a lot of conversations where people are just asking the question in terms of, once we implement this AI, does it mean that our workforce means that they can actually do additional productivity gains and work elsewhere? So I mean, that's the obvious one when it comes from a business case point of view. But then you have the element from the external push from the market. So everybody externally is now getting very comfortable with actually using generative AI. So I mean, from children to adults, people are starting to understand the usefulness of it, and they're starting to expect it, especially when it comes from other industries where they interact with on a daily basis, like retail and so on. So there's an element where you do need to look at both sides, but the one is easier than the other to do. So when you're looking at your operational side of things, where you're implementing on the operational side with various practitioners and so on, that is still in-house. It's something that you can control in terms of having a human in the loop, in terms of checking it. The risk in terms of when that's actually implemented is a lot potentially lower because you can mitigate it immediately almost. When you are starting to put stuff that's open to the external market, that's where the risk is a little bit more unknown. So that's where we're trading a little bit more carefully, and I think that's where you start to take a little bit more time with your use cases and testing and understanding it, almost starting with a in-house, almost proof of concept, and then figuring out how do you actually productionalize it. So I think that's kind of the two elements of it. You cannot ignore any one of these, because everybody's pretty much on a journey. Once you're behind, you are behind, and you have to play catch up, and that's not a good space to be in. So you have to kind of be focusing on every single one of those, but it's incremental moves. And I think, and as I mentioned earlier, it's about the mindset change and so on. So it's getting people comfortable with that. So even internally, when you're doing those operational gains and stuff, it's also about the fact that the people who are utilizing it, they need to be comfortable taking it on. There's a lot of doomsday sort of scenarios that the workforce are very comfortable with actually saying, well, this is going to replace me. What does that mean for me over the longer term? So just getting your own company and people within it comfortable with what AI can actually do from a support basis, that's really important. So even from there, we're focusing on how can we make AI a part of their day-to-day so that when we start to implement AI elsewhere and start to talk about the customer side of things, they're also comfortable with how that works.
Very good, very interesting. Raghava, what's your journeys? What are you looking at?
Yeah, so I think maybe I'll just start with a small example in the sense like our core part of our business is the breakdown. So I think many of the people in UK recognize us as a yellow vans. So whenever you're traveling on an M25, you see a yellow van helping someone whose car has broken down. So I think when we say smarter systems, the idea is what we are looking at is how do we be proactive rather than being reactive. So currently the breakdown happens, car breaks down, then the customer reaches out to us, we send a patrol van, and we want to make sure that they are up and continuing the journey within the next half an hour or 1 hour. And that's where we want to help customers when they are in trouble. But equally, what we are also looking at is with every car becoming a software rather than a hardware in olden times, how do we actually extract data from car, extract the data from the way the car is functioning and understand the car better so that we can proactively highlight or alert the customer saying, before you embark on a journey, your battery is going to be down, so maybe better charge your battery. So how do we actually limit the number of breakdowns right at the start, and so that we can proactively help provide the value to the customers. But having said that, equally, then what happens is there may be a lot more bigger problems where we can use our workforce to focus on the problems which are much more challenging, much more complex in nature, so that we can do a more efficient way of organizing the entire organization. So operational efficiency is what we'll drive out of it. And operational efficiency along with the entire smarter systems would really help us in
Very good. I guess that's the view on outcomes, and I guess a lot of people in the audience align and resonate with these objectives. I'm sure everyone is probably looking at something else. And with you, Carlos, I'd like to touch also on the triggers, right? So one of the things is, what we are pursuing and how do we measure and control our journey there. But what started the pursuit, no? And sometimes what happens is that, what's said, is financial services industry is very slow unless there's a regulation or a compliance requirement that is there and is going to be mandatory, and then everyone's moving, no? And so sometimes compliance is a catalyst for innovation, no? How do you see that happening, and what's your view on that?
Yeah, sure. I think it's a great question. I can go also, I take a practical example. I can go back before Alinia. I used to lead LLM governance and regulatory affairs at Hugging Face. So at this time, we were heavily involved in the discussions for the EU AI Act that I assume all of you know about. And all the discussions in Brussels were just complaining and complaining and complaining. And I was thinking, man, just don't cry, because it's a fact that the regulation will come. Just focus on be the first one complying with it, because compliance in the market, it's a competitive advantage. If your competitor is not compliant or not as well as you're going to gain market shares. That's just for sure. So compliance is always an opportunity, both internally and externally. Internally, because you generate trust, and probably your decision makers or your executive team is going to say, okay, green light, you can deploy this at massive scale, which nowadays with generative AI, it's almost impossible, right? So compliance and this lack of control basically blocks you almost all to really deploy heavily Gen AI at scale, and I think it's quite normal, right? So investing heavily in compliance, I think is just, you know, the way to go here.
Tasneem, have you felt that at your organization as well?
It's an interesting one. I mean, a case in point, the biggest regulation that's come around for a while here in the UK, Consumer Duty. I'm sure a lot of people are very familiar with that. So something when it comes to Gen AI and the usefulness in terms of that, we have to interpret a lot of customer data. We need to understand exactly what it is, and the faster we can do it, the faster we can react to it. So when you're looking at it from an innovation point of view, it's definitely something that you can start to implement and feed it back into the innovation cycle. Also, just in terms of just understanding how the customer is interacting with all of that information itself, can feed then into how you are developing the new products and what you're then putting out there. I will say it's still early days from a compliance point of view, though, in general. I think there's an element of, yes, we understand AI when it comes to the analysis of data and the ability to assess that large, complicated sets and provide new insights into it. I think where we're still trying to work out is, how do we actually deploy it with the compliance component in it? So how do you integrate compliance into the development of new AI native type solutions? Mm-hmm. So when you're looking at the agentic AI and just in general conversational AI, all the different things that are interacting with the customer itself, that's where things I think are a little still in their infancy. And part of that, to be honest, I think is not necessarily just compliance as a regulation. It's more about the skill set needed in terms of interpreting what this might mean. So how do we take that next step, that leap forward into taking this new technology from a compliance point of view? They're still trying to work that out as well.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Well, just a few minutes for this panel. I'd like to finish a little bit strong. I know this is sometimes challenging to say, but I'd like to touch on the impact that we're already seeing, no? And what are the results that we are currently seeing? For example, you know, as a GPTadvisor, I didn't present actually what we do, but we do agents for financial advisors, and we're looking at you know, use cases where banks are saving, I don't know, hundreds of emails a day of queries that are, you know, very basic queries that clients are, you know, posting to advisors. And you know, 2 months ago it was emails to the central offices, and then I was 2-3 days to get back, and then get back to the client, which, you know, diminishes quality and all that. So it's purely, you know, efficiency and service quality. Any result that you'd like to share, or any, you know, current impact, so that, you know, everyone on the audience feels the engagement and the reality of AI today? Carlos, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I always like to get really practical for you all. You're all here for that. So for instance, we are one of our customers. It's a company, it's a medical company. In the US, they are developing an AI assistant for post-knee injury recovery patients, right? And basically, they had their internal product development pipeline blocked because they were not able to scale this because they didn't have the right controls in place. So we started working with them, with one of our guardrails, which is medical guard, right? So for the medical domain, also they are using security and safety guards, but these are more quite generic, right? The vertical one is the medical guard. And right now, basically in probably 1 month, they are going to release their first main product with our guard, which I think it's basically, for us, it was a justification that we see Alinia as an enabler, because we really make things happen, and in this case it was AI deployment, can be a reality, right? Yeah.
Very good. Raghava, do you have any engaging result to share?
I mean, as I said, see, we are pretty much in the early stages of it as an organization, and the way we are looking at is as an operational efficiency combined with the personalization, the value to the customer. I've already mentioned a brief example earlier, so I think the way we are thinking is, how do we actually provide more better value to the customers with the changing technology landscape in the industry.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Yes, I guess I mentioned about AI's been implemented in insurance for a very, very long time now. So we have things there. It's sped up the way that we do our pricing. So we see significance in terms of that. We can react a lot faster to market conditions in terms of how we're actually able to price. From an underwriting perspective, it means that there's a lot more things from a straight-through processing point of view. So there's a lot more rules-based analysis in terms of how we can actually do that. Customers spend less time on the journeys themselves with us from that point of view. We've also launched things like in our pension space, so like Find and Combine, where we're utilizing machine learning in order to access the information from a customer and generate things like from a dashboard using AI to actually personalize the reports that are provided through to clients. And we're seeing a lot of change and uptake from clients in regards to that. So there are examples around from a customer angle. And then I also mentioned just internally from how we work day to day, it's changing the landscape in terms of how we've rolled it out to everyone within our business. So from how we interact in meetings itself, we now have AI that's managing our meeting calendars and things like that. We have AI that's now summarizing meetings and sending out action points automatically to different people. So the time that we spend on things internally has also improved. So we're getting that operational efficiencies coming through from that. And then also just in terms of how we work along the way in terms of summarization of any information that we are getting from the clients themselves enables and supports our internal operations people to actually do their jobs better and faster in a way. So we're improving our productivity as well as a result of it.
Very good. There are still a few minutes to go, so I'll go deeper a little bit. So let's talk a little bit about the future. No? We're looking at smarter systems, and what is the smartest system that will come, I don't know, months from now or years from now. Just to drive the conversation, I was listening to Sam Altman the other day, and in one of the keynotes, he was saying, well, that ChatGPT is going to have infinite memory in a few months, and that means, the AI is going to be learning everything about this. Let's put it in a business perspective, everything from a customer, every journey, every touch point, everything, and that's going to drive not just our probably internal intelligence as a company, but their intelligence as well. No? They're going to become much more smarter because they're going to have this agent interface between themselves and the companies, and it is going to be probably much more challenging to sell, much more challenging to become relevant in the future. What's your view on that situation that's going to come?
Yeah, I think from an agentic systems perspective, I think human in the loop is the key thing, right? So you may have multiple agents running on it, but at the end, again, from a controls perspective, from a overall guardrails perspective, there will be always a human in the loop which can. So that's how we are seeing it evolving. So to Tasneem's point earlier, the operational efficiencies in terms of summarization of what the clients are asking, or within the teams, or even in the case of motor claims or things like that, can we actually use AI to enable us to understand what is whether it's a total loss or whether it's a repair or something like that, some of the efficiencies in terms of the overall end-to-end process, so that then we can drive it into the appropriate departments and equally give customers a lot more better service. So I think it's end of the day, it's all agentic systems are all enables works within the human in the loop framework.
It's good that we keep the human, no?
Definitely.
Yeah, just to keep tight with the time, I mean, I fully agree. I think for us at Alinia, I mean, we are tending towards safety and compliance agents at full scale. We already have started with it, so we have some kind of glimpse of agents, right? Our LLM guards, but still we will tend to fully autonomous safety systems, and for sure the expert in the loop is just the main piece for us. Also, in looking at the future, from a very technical perspective, I think we are going to see even more agentic open source or kind of high quality LLM open source. For instance, the other day, I don't know if you know, but OpenAI is going to release in a few months their first family of open source models. I was in a meeting with, with Sam, having the co-founders of Hugging Face and other people, and basically they are fully focused on enabling small high quality LLMs for agentic workflows, and this is going to be, I think, crazy for all of us.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I 100% agree about human in the loop. I think it's great that we're all consistently saying that at this point in time. So I think that's definitely going to be something that we need to continue to keep in mind in terms of how we're designing things. I think when I think about the smarter system of the future, I think what it does is that our focus is going to completely shift to dealing with the administrative side and all of the process side of things, and it's entirely going to be about the customer experience at a certain point, because that'll be the differentiating factor, what actually makes us different. So how do you make your brand still relevant in a space with AI? You're going to need to start to focus, like, what are you actually giving through to the customer that makes them keep coming back? So it's quite exciting from that viewpoint. It kind of puts us back in terms of we are in the customer service space in terms of the fact of what we are producing is for them. So I think that's quite exciting in terms of once you've removed all of the things in the background, that's essentially where we're going to end up being.
I think value to the customer, end of the day, it's all about personalization, the value that you provide them.
Okay, very good. So I think we can close it here. We touch on the smart systems. I guess as a conclusion, and if you agree with me, it's a reality. It's already here. We can tackle all of the above objectives. No, efficiency, personalization. It's very, very important that we put guardrails in place. Otherwise, we're not going to achieve. And the future is just exciting, no? And we're going to see, many more features and activities and AI-related value to unlock. So, well, thank you everyone for being in the panel. Thank you for attending, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you.
Thank you.